everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine. In today's video, we'll be discussing the concept of constructor. Most of the students, they are having the confusion regarding constructor, whether it is having the data type, what is the use of constructor, how it is getting called. As per the definition, that what is constructor? Constructor actually is a function, or it is referred as member function of the class. By default, it gets called. There is one property in class. The class is a collection of data members and member functions. If I talk about class is a collection of data members and member function, which is referred to as encapsulation also. So there are member functions which are explicitly called, means they are declared by user and they are defined by user. But there are some member functions which are not defined by users. They are by default gets called, and constructor is actually one of them. So this is one part. This is a member function. It by default gets called. It means when it will get called. Obviously, I will tell you about that. It does not have any data type. There is no return type of this particular constructor, and there can be many constructors. Can be right. So I would rather take your attention towards how the constructor actually works, but there are some terminologies that I would discuss before we move forward. So since I told you this is actually a member function, yes, it is a member function of class, which should be used in public section so that uh, we can actually call it. And it is a member function of the class. It means you are going to write function definition only. Function definition only if you have to write anything inside the constructor. And obviously, since it is a member function, it will access data members. Access data members means you can, if you have created a class, like you have written class A and you have written int A and float B. Let's say this is the class, let's say you have created. So you can access or give value to A and B using this particular member function, right? Second important thing is that how it gets called. By default, as I told you, that by default it gets called. So by default it gets called how? If you declare any object. Guys, it's very simple, that the moment you declare any object, by default it gets called, and it initializes certain values if it is written in the program. If it is not written, the by default the memory gets allocated. Means that if, let's say, there is a class A and I have written, and this is, we have closed, and the moment I declare the object of the class, means class name followed by object name. The moment I write this particular line, it means if you have written constructor inside the class, it gets called. And whenever it gets called, memory is given to class. Means the moment it gets called, the memory gets allocated to the class. So I will also demonstrate this particular part. The moment constructor gets called, memory gets allocated to the class. Third thing, no data type. Guys, let me tell you very important part. This is a very important part, that constructor does not have any data type, and they basically have same name as of class. Means whatever the name of class is, the constructor gets the same name. Let's say if I'm writing class and semicolon, so it means over here your constructor gets name of class. Name of class means we will write a, and this is the function of constructor. So this is a very basic property that no other member function has. Only constructor has this kind of property, that by default it gets the name of the class. And let's see what other important properties we have. Yeah, so we have no data type, and actually constructor is of various data types. Like one of the data type is default. Default means even if it is not written in the class, even if you are not writing it, memory gets still allocated and it gets called on the background part. If I want to pass parameterized, or if I want to pass any parameters, we use the concept of parameterized constructor. Then there is the concept of default, parameterized. We have a concept of copy constructor of the class. Then we have another type of constructor, which is initializer list. This is a placement question that I will discuss in my next video. So we have these kind of constructors, and all can be part of the same class, and all of them if written together, they basically form the concept of all will have the same class name. So functions having same name, same function name, and different arguments, it refers to, as we all have studied, that is function overloading. But over here in this concept, it is referred as constructor overload. So here it are the notes of this particular constructor that I will definitely post in my description section. But the important points that you need to understand is constructor does not have any data type. Or let me just show you the part over here. We have constructors. Firstly, they are declared in the public section. Their function name is as having the same class name, right? And they don't have any data type, and we have function having the same name as class name. By default they get called the moment your object is declared. They don't have any data type, and many constructors can be made in a program that refers to as constructor overloading. So this is how your constructor works, and let's just create that in your, yeah. So I'm going to write a program regarding the constructor. So firstly, what you are going to write, obviously you will write IOStream. Then we have hash include new.h. We have using namespace std. Then I'm creating a class. I'm writing a. So I'm closing the class here. Obviously, I will be using the concept of constructor also. So guys, just see, I'm taking two variables, int a and float b. So two variables I have taken. In the public section, I'm just writing A, and this is actually a default constructor. It occupies the same name of a class. Class name is A and constructor name is A2. We am writing A is equal to 5 and B is equal to 6.7, and I'm displaying it here only. So I'm displaying A as well as with space I'm displaying B. So this is a default constructor, guys. So we have just written this particular concept. We are going to write main. In main, I'm going to write A followed by obj. Guys, just see the importance of this particular part. Have I written any other function name? No. The class name was same, and I'm just declaring this particular variable. The moment this line is written A followed by obj, by default, this whole block runs. Small a, which is the data member of the class, and small b, which is also a data member of the class. These are all data members, and this is a member function, and by default it displays the value of a as well as b. So let's try to execute this particular statement, and let's see what answers we can get. So I'm executing, and just see, it is displayed by default. The moment you write a followed by obj, just see, your answers of 5 and 6.7 is displayed. This is one type of constructor, which is a default constructor that we have written by ourselves. Fine. I hope this part is clear. And let's create another kind of constructor. I can also write a is given int x, comma, float y. It means I'm giving parameters to this constructor, and I'm using small a is given x and small b is given y, and I'm displaying the value of a as well as b with handle, right? So it means I have written one variable which is also a part of copy, which is also part of parameterized constructor. Now over here I have not given any arguments. This block was running. Now, since you can see this constructor, it means it will get called when object is declared, but object has two arguments, this int x and float y. So just I'm writing like this, a followed by obj1. There is another object that is declared, but with two arguments, integer, comma, float. So I'm giving comma 5.6 value. So this 3 actually will be copied to x, and this 5.6 will be copied to y. And if I run this particular program, just see, you have been given as 5 and 6.7 that we have declared this particular part. Then in 3 and 5.6, just see, this 3 and 5.6 you have given in this particular part, which is given to this small a as well as small b, eventually displaying the value of small a, which was 3, and small b, which was 5.6. So this is again a concept of a parameterized constructor. Guys, just see, same function name is a only, but there are two arguments here. There is no argument here. This is the concept of function overloading, which over here it is referred as constructor overloading. Now let's create another kind of object. I am just writing a obj2. I've clearly taken another object. I'll just pass the value of obj1 here. Means whatever the value of obj1 is, it gets the value of obj. The obj2 gets the value of the same. Like for an example, your obj1 has two data members which are given values as 3 and 5.6. I just want them to be copied. Then obviously, because I want them those values to be copied to those variables as well, so that they also get the same value. So how we will basically create that? Again, guys, I am passing obj1. Now, since 3 and 5.6, when they were passed, 3 data type was integer and 5.6 data type is float. Fine. Now obj1, what is the data type of obj1? It's very simple. The data type of obj1 is A. Fine. So again, if we are passing any object, make sure that same data type is passed. So I'm writing A. Fine. And you're passing obj1. So data type of obj1 is A only. And I can write any value over here, but that would signify that I'm copying the values of obj1 to obj, and here you can write anything, even you can write obj1. Fine. Now, how we are going to code this particular part? In this part, I will give this small a obj1.a because it will actually provide, just a minute. So I will put A because over here, even this part I am accessing A, I'm accessing B. Over here in this particular part, I'm accessing A, I'm accessing B. So I again in your copy constructor, or this is actually referred as copy constructor because you are passing the value of obj1 to obj2. So in this particular part, I will copy the values of obj1 to obj. So once since you have passed obj1 over here, guys, try to pass in the form of a reference variable, because any changes that you make in a reference variable will be reflected in the lower part as well. So I'm putting that as a reference variable and I'm assigning the value of the small a as obj1.a, the small b as obj1.b, and I'm just displaying them. See out, like I'm just displaying that. If the values are copied, they will give the same result as 3 and 5.6, and if anything error comes, it will provide the error. So just see how this whole process works. Just see 3 values, 5 6.7, 3 5.6, and 3 5.6. Yeah. Over here I would rather write 1 line with cout, we put endl, and I'm writing I am displaying values of obj1 which is copied to obj2. So basically you are calling this obj2 over here, guys. Clearly obj2, the moment it is declared, copy constructor gets called. It means this whole block should execute. Fine. If you have written obj1 3.3, 5.6, that particular block, this block gets executed. And if you have written just simple obj, this block gets executed. So ideally it should give me 5 6.7, 3 and 5.6, and that particular line that we have written with this particular one. I'm displaying the value of obj1 which is copied to obj2. Just see clearly. See 5 6.7, that is one answer which is default constructor. 3 and 5.6, second answer which is your parameterized constructor. And in copy constructor it is clearly saying I am displaying the values of obj1 which is copied to obj2, 3 and 5.6. Hence your question is solved, and this is the property of constructor. So I'll be sharing this program in your description option, so kindly try it. And if there is any problem, kindly post in comment section. Kindly like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much.